II from Good Morning NFC East. Man, oh man, the vibes are right. Good morning with you guys, man. It's a rainy day in Philadelphia, and I hope you guys are staying safe out there. I hope you guys are driving safe as well. Don't run no red lights. Don't run no yellow lights. People are out there driving crazy, man. I can hear these guys beeping their horn hella crazy out of my window. So make sure you guys continue to stay safe out there on these slippery roads, no matter where you are, right? Even if you're not in Philly, if you're in the tri-state area, wherever you're holding it down from. Make sure you guys continue to stay safe. Make sure you guys continue to make the right decisions on the road. You feel what I'm saying? So, like I said, man, your Philadelphia Eagles have a lot of moves to make in the offseason. It begins with free agency. It begins with that Jalen Hurts contract. And then you go into the NFL draft. So I want to talk to you guys about who is probably going to have the most pressure on them heading into the 2023 season. Who do you guys think has more pressure to perform in 2023? Who's most of the pressure on? Is the pressure on Nick Sirianni, especially losing his OC and his DC? Is the pressure on Jalen Hurts, especially when you think about that contract he's about to get? Is the pressure on the future OC to get the most out of Jalen Hurts? Is the pressure on last year's rookie class? Is the pressure on last year's rookie class? Al Delente says Davis and Dean, 2 high-round picks. There is a lot of pressure on those guys. There's a lot of pressure, especially on Jordan Davis. Is there pressure on Howie Roseman to get this thing figured out in the offseason? You see, there's plenty of pressure to go around. But if you ask me at this present moment, who has the most pressure, I would probably say most of the pressure is probably on Howie Roseman, because this is the part of the year where he has to make all the magic happen. He has to make every decision make sense. Last offseason, he made a lot of moves and it made sense, but he also had a good amount of money to work with. Now, you're going to have one more year. Excuse me. You're going to have one more year before the Jalen Hurts contract kicks in. Who are you going to bring in? Which contracts are you going to restructure? Who are you going to trade? Who are you going to trade for? The pressure, I believe, is on Howie Roseman, because he has to make all these numbers work. He has to crunch the numbers to make sure that the Philadelphia Eagles don't put themselves in a bind, not just with how they build the roster, but also with the Jalen Hurts contract. It has to make sense. Like I told you guys, Jalen is going to get 40 plus 50 million. He's going to get 50 million. That goes without saying here. But will he be able to make it work? Can the Eagles build the roster still with him getting that big payday? I think they can, but it's all about the talent. It's all about what you do with the opportunity. That's what it's all about. So the pressure cooker's on. The pressure cooker's on. You know, I was listening to all the different shows yesterday, and one topic that stood out to me was how Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon are going to build their rosters and how they're going to build, you know, their coaching staff. And are we going to be competing with Gannon and Steichen to sign our free agents? Has Gannon and Steichen maybe made a backdoor deal, had backdoor conversations with top tier free agents that we used to have? That's something that makes me nervous. I can't remember which show I heard it on, but the bottom line is Gannon and Steichen have to build their rosters and their teams. They're walking into some relatively decent situations from a talent perspective. But what are they going to do in free agency? Are they going to poach some guys like a TJ Edwards or a Marcus Epps or a CJ Gardner-Johnson or Javon Hargrave? Or are they going to poach some guys? That's going to be interesting. Al Delente says coaching, Clay, and the whole staff. That reflects on Howie and Nick. If they hit a home run, they will earn the trust of the city. Well, I think Nick and Howie have the trust of the city, at least right now. But it can easily be lost. Y'all know how Philadelphia is. Jeff Walker says, "Oh, they out here with the Birdman hand rub trying to steal from us." You're going to have to make the math, if you feel me. No, I feel you. I feel you. Do you think they will structure like Mahomes' contract, low base pay, high roster bonus? That's interesting. That's interesting. Well, that's really interesting, actually. Could they structure it with a low base, high roster bonus? Maybe, but I think the only reason they can do that is because it's a 10-year deal with Patrick Mahomes. I think that's the only reason they can do that. It's a 10-year deal. I could be wrong, though. I could be completely wrong. But that Jalen Hurts contract is going to come down to how it's structured. It's not going to come down to how much money he's getting paid a year. I don't think that's going to be the real issue. Hey, SMD Eagles, don't worry, man. I'm just holding it down for a while. I'm just holding it down for a little bit. It's summertime. Well, summertime is approaching. Spring is approaching. The season is over. So you're going to start to see some tweaks with the content, right? You're going to start to see, some breaks coming up here and there, things like that. But the content is always going to keep flowing. That's one thing what we're going to do. The content is always going to keep flowing. But yeah, like I was saying, it's going to be important to see how this thing is structured. Because there's a lot of pressure on Howie Roseman to make this thing work. There's a lot of pressure on Howie Roseman to make this thing work. Let me ask you guys this question here. Jalen Hurts. Do you guys believe if Jalen Hurts takes a deal that isn't really beneficial to the team, do you think that could affect his leadership in the locker room? Do you guys believe that players are watching to see how Jalen Hurts responds to his contract negotiations? Now, I know guys don't talk about money in the locker room. They don't talk about each other's contracts. That's an unwritten rule. We don't talk about another man's money. But do you think at least they're watching to see how Jalen Hurts handles his contract negotiations? Do you think they're looking at him and saying, okay, is he going to try to just gut the franchise with his contract, or is he going to try to make sure we can stay talented? Paul Mancini says Coach Sirianni has the most pressure on him. Not a bad pick, not a bad choice. Al Delente says Howie was in a rebuilding phase the last several years. He did a fantastic job getting to a Super Bowl. Now the hard part, keeping us there. History shows losers in the Super Bowl fail years after we've been there. Well, the good thing about it is we didn't leverage a lot to get to the Super Bowl. Don't believe the hype. The Eagles didn't really leverage too much to get there. They signed guys to one-year deals. They signed some high-quality starters to multi-year deals. So I don't think the Eagles leveraged too much to get to the Super Bowl. You had TJ Edwards on a one-year deal. You had Kaiser White on a one-year deal. You had CJ Gardner-Johnson on a one-year deal. James Bradbury on a one-year deal. Zach Pascal on a one-year deal. You gave Hassan Reddick a 3-year deal. You gave AJ Brown a 4-year deal by trading for him. After trading for him, you gave, who else did they pay? You have Fletcher Cox on a 1-year deal. You had Kelsey on a 1-year deal as well. You follow me? So it all remains to be seen. But ultimately, the Eagles didn't leverage too much to get to where they got. I think that was the perfect situation. That sometimes it doesn't always happen that way. When teams bring in free agents, it doesn't always pan out the way they anticipate. So what the Eagles did last year, was kind of I don't want to say unprecedented because it seemed like every move they made just hit. But also they brought in some quality guys to make a run, and they did just that. I don't think this team is going to be as bad as people like to make it out to be. It's fun to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles being mediocre, but I think this team is going to be okay because that you figured out the quarterback position. That is the biggest deal to me. You figured out the quarterback position. So I'm not buying into the Eagles are going to suck next year. I'm not buying into that. I think the Eagles just need to make the right moves, right? Because sometimes having the most talent on your defense isn't even the best thing. Sometimes you need guys that can just do their job, period. I mean, we made it look easy having all that talent on defense, but sometimes you need guys that can just do their job. Sometimes you need low-profile guys that don't really have the biggest names behind them, but they're relatively good at what they do. They're good at what you ask them to do. But it will be a challenge at the end of the day. It will be a challenge. Daniel, okay, we're gonna say Daniel today. Daniel, I think he takes less to keep players. Okay, we'll see. I don't want him to take a pay cut. I just want him to structure the contract in a way that's beneficial. I don't want him to take a pay cut. Just structure the contract properly, Howie. That's all. Davey Boy, yes and no. It's a business. They understand that him taking a team-friendly deal will go a long way, but getting his money won't hurt him. That's a fact. It's a business at the end of the day. We got to remember that. Mint Diggity says facts, Tone. Truth. The rumors of the Eagles' demise is greatly exaggerated. I agree with you on that. Still a 13-win team, still winning the division, and will be in the mix for the 1 seed. Yeah, I think the Eagles are definitely still a double-digit win team. I think the Giants will be improved. They're going to have a lot of money to spend. So I think the Giants will be better. I think the Cowboys will decline again. I think they're going to lose Zeke in the offseason. And then Tony Pollard is coming off of a broken tibia or a broken fibula, whatever it is, a broken leg, basically. So who knows what Tony Pollard's future is in Dallas. His contract is up. So are they going to franchise Tony Pollard? We don't know. So the Cowboys relatively don't know what they're going to do at running back. Eagles have Kenny Gainwell. The only running back they have under contract are Kenny Gainwell and Trey Sermon. Are they going to bring back Boston Scott? It's a chance. Are they going to draft a running back? I believe so. So running back is still for any franchise. Running back is relatively an easy fix. It's all about your offensive line, really. Daniel says if they offer him 45, I think he takes 30 with more incentives. Nah. Jalen Hurts is definitely getting $50 million. But yeah, I still think the Eagles are a double-digit win team. I believe that. Call me crazy. But the NFC is not loaded. The NFC is not loaded at all. We got to be honest. The NFC is not loaded. But let's be honest. Let's be honest with ourselves for a second. Most of the heavy hitters at quarterback are where? In the AFC. But when it comes to the NFC, matter of fact, let's go through it real quick. Will the Eagles be better? Will the Eagles be better than the Chicago Bears? Yes. Will the Eagles be better than the Cardinals? Yes. Will they be better than the Rams? Yes. Falcons? Yes. Saints? Yes. Panthers? Yes. Packers? I'm not sure. Aaron Rodgers, will he come back? Will they finally, figure out their issues? Tampa Bay, who's going to be the quarterback? We don't know. Watch the Commanders. Who's going to be the quarterback? Eagles going to be better than them. I think the Eagles going to be better than Green Bay. Bottom line, though, let me make that clear. Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are interesting because they're improving and they're only going to get better. I think their issue is going to be coaching in the long run because they have talent. They have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. They have a serviceable quarterback that doesn't make that many mistakes. They have a running game. They also have wide receivers. Is it Jameson Williams? They have DJ Chark. and they have someone else as well. I can't remember who they have. Oh, Amon-Ra St. Brown. So they're pretty decent at wide receiver. The Seahawks are going to be interesting because they got a lot of draft capital to use. They're going to have a good amount of money to spend, and they got a lot of production from their rookies. New York Giants, they still have a lot of improving to do, but they're going to be better. Dallas will decline. I think the Vikings will decline as well. And believe it or not, call me crazy, I think the 49ers are going to decline slightly. Not drastically, but I think the 49ers will decline ever so slightly. This year or in 2022, they were a 13-win team. I think the 49ers might regress to maybe being a 11-win team. I think the 49ers may regress into being an 11-win team. That's not to say their roster got worse. I just have this weird feeling the 49ers are going to regress slightly. Not majorly, but slightly. Maybe they lose, maybe they win one less game. So I think the 49ers may regress to a 12-win team, maybe 11 or 12-win team. I think the Eagles are going to regress as well. I think the Eagles regress to maybe a 12-win team, a 12-win team, or something like that. I think that's the reality for the Philadelphia Eagles when you think about the schedule as it's laid out. When you won 14 games, if I'm looking at these teams right now, it's a real chance the Eagles win 12 games. I think 12 games is realistic at this point, all things considered. I think 12 games is pretty realistic. 12 games. That's just my thought, though. Some of you guys might not like that. You might not like that. The AFC is loaded at quarterback, exactly. But the NFC, I think that's where the Eagles will obviously have their success. The fact that the NFC is not really a gauntlet, and neither is the division. Will says, will they try to re-sign Isaac Samalu? I don't know, man, because Isaac Samalu is going to be able to get paid big bucks. He's 29 years old, I think, or 28. So he has an opportunity to get a really, really big contract. I think Isaac Samalu walks. I think Isaac walks. SMD says, who's the 49ers QB? Purdy, Lance? That's the thing. We don't know what they're going to do with Lance because he's coming off an injury. We don't know what they're going to do with Purdy because he's coming off an injury as well. Jimmy Garoppolo is gone. So the 49ers, once again, are at an impasse when it comes to the quarterback position. So how much stock can I understand they made it to an NFC championship with Brock Purdy. But if they're not going to have either of those guys, Purdy or Lance, how good can they really be? How good can they really be? I do think the Seahawks will be better, but the biggest question, Mint Diggity, is this. Can Geno Smith put together a similar season? Can he put together a Pro Bowl season again like he did before? That's going to be the tough part. But people are saying the same thing about Jalen. But here's the thing. Jalen is younger. So you naturally assume he's going to continue to improve. Whereas Geno, he's a bit old. He's older. He's in his 30s. So you question the upside of a Geno Smith. You question if he can sustain that level of success that he had because he did lead the league in completion percentage. That's not easy to do again. That's not an easy task. So I think Geno Smith comes back down to earth a little bit. I think the Seahawks roster will be better, but I think Geno comes back down to earth. That's what I think. But again, let me ask you guys this, even though I hate really doing this early, but who on the Eagles schedule are you remotely concerned about? Obviously, the Chiefs, they beat us 2 years in a row. You got to pay attention to the Bills. You got to pay attention to the 49ers because the roster is so good. But other than that, I feel like everybody else on the schedule is pretty beatable. The Dolphins are going to be interesting because they got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. We also don't know what our future holds at corner. The Dolphins might take advantage of our DB situation, but we don't know when we're playing these teams, so it all remains to be seen. It all remains to be seen. Sir Philly says, I think that Jalen Hurts fumble is going to haunt us forever. I'm a diehard fan. We had a lot of luck this year. We played a bunch of injured teams with backup quarterbacks. And I think we had probably the best roster in Eagles history from head to toe. a lot of luck with no injuries. I don't think it will ever get any easier to win a Super Bowl than it did this past year. You didn't say anything wrong. That fumble was gut-wrenching. Also, you're right. The road doesn't get any easier. This was probably the path, right? This was the moment you had to seize, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. So the bottom line is, this is a tough schedule. This is a much tougher schedule, but this is what happens when you put yourself in a position to be one of the best teams. This is what happens when you win your division, when you make it to the Super Bowl. This is what happens. You get the tougher schedule. So this is what the Eagles just have to do. They got to take every opportunity and win their matchups. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. But yeah, you guys, I've really enjoyed covering this show this week, man. I've really enjoyed this, you guys. Hey, Al Dolente, man, go enjoy the rest of your day, man. A lot of you guys are probably on your way to work. Some of y'all are probably just getting there. Your shift just starting. Maybe some of y'all are just getting off work because you work at night. But ultimately, I've had a good time hosting the show with you guys these past 2 weeks, man. It's been really fun. I don't take it for granted. This has been one of the most enriching experiences for me, if I'm being honest with you guys. You guys have been spectacular. You guys have held down the show. And you guys have continued to come out and support. So I don't take that for granted. Make sure you guys smash that like button. I appreciate you guys so much. Next up, it's Birds 365 with Jody Mack and John McMullen, who have two guests, Chris Franklin and Les Bowen. So make sure you guys lock in on Birds 365 with those guys, man. It's a hell of a show. Also, make sure you guys lock in on Sports Take with Barrett Brooks, Derek Gunn, and Rob Ellis. Make sure you guys lock in on the National Football Show with Dan Cilio. Make sure you guys go check out the weekly episodes of This Week in Pro Football with Pat Callahan. So there's a lot of content out there for you guys to lock in on, and I appreciate y'all for continuing to hold me down and hold down JAKIB Sports throughout this process. Like I say, man, I'm your guy, Tone DeShields II, and this has been Good Morning NFC East. One love, stay humble, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay hungry, you guys.